Nigeria, British BA controversy, if you will, or face-off we call it here. Well, Mr. Chris Aligbe joins us now. He's an aviation expert. He's been in this industry for a while now. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you.
Well, it just pops up that those who say not the first time, it's about time, all sorts of phraseology about time. But this time, from what you've seen, are we really standing up to the way it ought to be?
In terms of what?
In terms of the agreement, the BASA agreement, sticking to the BASA agreement.
I think what is happening is that we are now faced with the issue of resolving what I will call the mismanagement over time of the BASA agreement, bilateral service agreement we have in Nigeria and UK. You know, like I see FG, BA, this agreement is not BA really, it's not British Airways. It's Nigerian, UK government and Nigerian government. That's the critical issue, because BA, ARIC, Virgin Atlantic, they are deriving their rights from the BASA agreement. And so wherever anything goes wrong, you go back to the fundamental document, which is BASA. And I think this issue is, let us look at the BASA. What are the rights of each country? The BASA states clearly what the right of UK is and what the right of Nigeria is. 21 frequencies on UK side, 21 frequencies on the Nigerian side. And each country has that responsibility to make sure that it creates a conducive environment for the other countries to fully exercise their rights under the BASA. It's an international it's a relationship between two countries. And you could say it's a legal document. Immediately you enter into it, you have an obligation, legal obligation, to make sure that these functions.
So is that irrespective of the independent agencies that may be operational at various airports?
Completely independent of it. Look, if you, as all those independent agencies as they are operating within the environment of a government. So if you sign an agreement, it behoves you to know all the agencies that will work with that agreement to say, look, we have this agreement with this country. These are the terms of this agreement. These are the rights. Whatever you are doing within your independence, make sure you enclose these rights within whatever you are doing. It's a responsibility. I give you an example. If America, all the decisions they take about arms shipment for one country or the other, organizations that went against them were sanctioned. These are, whether they are multilateral agreements or they are bilateral agreements, if you are a citizen, a corporate citizen of the country that has entered into the agreement, it behooves you to respect the agreement entered into by the sovereign nation under whose environment you operate. So this argument of independence, of this, that, it doesn't make any meaning to me, looking clearly at the fundamental document, which is BASA itself.
You know, looking at this BASA agreement now, you call it, it's very fundamental. So will any kind of hiccup affect the airlines?
Certainly, because the airlines are the instruments for executing the BASA. So wherever there's a hiccup, it will affect the airlines. That's the truth of it. Immediately, you are an instrument in that. Anything happening, if there's a problem between the two countries and they start and the relationship gets sour, the airlines will stop operating. That's the whole thing. So the airlines derive their operating rights from the BASA. And so once there's a hiccup from the origin of your rights, then it will affect you.
Okay, but why is it that we have airline operators, because they seem to give a perspective that people just kind of don't understand, because Alhaji Muhammad Tukur says that the issue at hand had nothing to do with BASA but allocation of slots, and he says it's beyond the British Airways since there was an independent agency handling that. So where does this fit in?
It's unfortunately a narrow perspective of the issue on the ground. It is like there's an ailment, and you say, oh, yeah, this fever. You don't just say fever and you look at the cause of the fever. It could be malaria, it could be typhoid, it could be any other thing. It could be septicemia, it could be anything. So you have to go and check what is the cause of this fever. Those who hold that view are looking at the fever, not going to the cause of it, and they will never get to the correct point of treating the fever.
No, the reason why that viewpoint is important and also be taken into cognizance is that yes, you have said that if you look at it on face value, the BASA agreement only covers frequencies and not slots. Now, if you begin to look at slots, you're not saying maybe you might not have, or you can have slots, but you have to pay for them.
Sorry, you look at this. Look at this in frequency and slots are inseparable. Look, the issue of slots being separated from frequency is a recent development. It never existed before, and it came into there because the airports in Europe and some certain countries became congested, and because of environmental concerns and other things, they can no longer be expanded to the point that they will create more opportunity, more facilities. They can expand the terminals, but then the entire airport environment will not be expanded because of environmental concerns. And then they have become highly commercial airports, huge hubs and that kind of a thing, and the problem of slots allocation. Now they decided, look, what we are going to do, let us separate slots from frequencies as a way of managing this. These things don't exist in most developing countries, the Asian countries and whatever. There's no question of separating frequency from slots.
So it's a it's a development, the evolution in their sectors, in the aviation sectors, that have brought about this separation, as it were. In times past, did we have to pay for slots?
No, nobody had to pay for slots. It was not an issue. Immediately you had frequencies, you assumed straight away that slots were the frequencies meant slots. So they were immutable. So the attempt now is the problems of congestion being faced by many of these countries, and they're saying, look, how can we manage it? Particularly to their own advantage, because they found that airlines are now coming from various places, Asiatic Airlines, Middle East Airlines, and whatever. India had this problem with UK at Heathrow. They fought it, and India today has 60 slots at Heathrow. They have 60.
We're talking about 21 here,
yes,
but again,
yes.
I read something about you, your comment from you. You're talking about this particular issue and how much it pains you to see all of this. Quote here, you say, BA did a lot assisting Nigeria Airways before it was liquidated, so you feel sad about what is happening now. So expatiate more on that.
Yeah, okay. I said so because people tend to mistake these things as a Nigerian government BA. It is not Nigerian government. It is not BA, and people tend to discuss it at the level of airlines. This discussion is not at the level of airlines. Whether RIC, whether BA, whether Virgin Atlantic, it's not at their level. It's at the level of governments who signed an agreement and who they have the responsibility to make sure that this agreement is operative. Okay? I say it so because some people say, oh, BA. I say to you, you cannot be more passionate to me, more passionate than me about BA. We had a long-standing relationship when we were in Nigeria Airways, and when things got awry, particularly this thing that had happened before, when BA was banned under Abacha administration. By the time they came back, in an enlightened self-interest, they followed the process of enlightened self-interest. Say, look, if Nigeria Airways was operating well and making commercial gains out of this route, maybe Nigerian government would have seen the reason not to stop air services between the two countries. And so what we have to do is to help Nigeria Airways to have a commercial operation on that route. And that's what they did. Okay? When there was a hue and cry about Nigerian flights, airplanes are not good, during the, I think, Junior World Cup something, they gave us 2 aircraft. BA gave Nigeria Airways 2 737 deployed here for us to, during that period, to fly footballers, and after that they took them away.
So there's always been this relationship.
There's this relationship. Okay, so when people are talking about the federal government did not act, it's not acting against British Airways. No, he just took a decision that, well, if this is this quid pro quo, they call it reciprocity in the international relations. So if we are denied this and this thing, so we also have an arrangement that stops you. Give us our rights. You've been enjoying your rights. Give us our rights. One, like I said, BASA is a legal document, so you are legally obliged to ensure that it works. If it's working for you, you have started deriding your rights, you are morally obliged to make sure that the other thing. So whether legally or morally, the two implications are there. And so that's why the federal government say, okay, you've taken this, you're undermining the BASA, and you have denied us our own rights on all these things. So let us square up. Reciprocity,
okay,
absolute.
But you said this didn't pop up when we had the national carrier, Nigeria Airways.
I just told you, when was Nigeria Airways liquidated? It was about 10 years ago.
Yeah, because...
But why I'm saying this is that I say to you, this attempt to separate slot from frequency is a recent development. Secondly, and when Nigeria Airways was operating, we had just about 7 frequencies each way. Okay, it was at the entrance of Virgin Atlantic that the issue of additional frequencies came, 14 frequencies, and later, when British Airways thought of going to Abuja, they asked for negotiation and increased the frequency to 21. Okay, so as at that time, so there's been a trend in this, attempt to separate slot from BASA.